BBC General Hospital Spoilers reveal that Willow has always known how to survive. She learned early that survival in Port Charles is not about innocence, but about leverage. Lately, however, survival has begun to feel like isolation. The walls are closing in, police investigations tightening, alliances shifting, secrets threatening to surface at the worst possible moment. And beneath all of it lies a truth Willow may not say aloud but can no longer ignore. She needs someone strong beside her, not just emotionally, strategically. A man who can shield her when the fallout comes. For a time, she believed she could maneuver alone. She believed she could orchestrate outcomes, quietly plant a key, redirect suspicion, dismantle threats one by one. But the consequences have grown unpredictable. Michael is not collapsing as quickly as she hoped. The PCPD is circling closer than anticipated, and Chase, steadfast, moral, stubbornly principled Chase, has become both her greatest vulnerability and her most useful opportunity. Willow understands something about Chase that others do not. She knows his loyalty runs deeper than logic. She knows he once believed in her without question. That belief is still there, buried beneath marriage vows and professional ethics. And that is where she sees possibility. But first, Chase must lose everything. It is not cruelty for cruelty's sake, at least not in Willow's mind. It is necessity. As long as Chase has Brooklyn, as long as he has his badge, as long as he has stability, he has distance from her. And distance means unpredictability. But a man stripped of certainty, stripped of career, stripped of love, such a man becomes malleable. Such a man seeks grounding. Willow does not push him directly. She's far too intelligent for that. Instead, she nudges events into motion. She allows Dante's suspicions to escalate. She does not intervene when questions about the key arise. She remains silent when Chase's unauthorized investigation becomes exposed. Silence, in this case, is weaponized. When the order comes down suspending Chase pending review, Willow reacts with carefully measured concern. She visits him. She listens. She reminds him that she understands what it feels like to be falsely judged. She positions herself as the one person who sees his integrity when others doubt it. Meanwhile, Brooklyn grows increasingly frustrated. The secrets, the risks, the potential disgrace. Willow does not need to sabotage that marriage directly. It is unraveling on its own under pressure. She simply ensures she is present when Chase feels most alone. A quiet hand on his shoulder. A memory shared. A look that lingers just a little too long. And beneath that carefully crafted compassion lies a colder calculation. If Chase loses his badge permanently, if he loses Brooklyn in the fallout, Willow becomes the constant, the safe harbor, the only one who never turned away. The narrative shifts. He will not see manipulation, he will see loyalty. This is the adjustment in Willow that few are prepared for. The softness that once defined her is hardening into strategy. She no longer waits for fate to deliver what she wants. She constructs it, piece by piece. The most dangerous part is that she convinces herself she is doing this for survival. She needs protection. She needs someone capable, honorable, unwavering. Chase fits that mold. But she does not ask whether he wants to be molded by her plans. She assumes that once stripped of alternatives, he will choose her. And as Chase's world fractures career jeopardized, marriage-strained Willow steps closer. There are moments when doubt flickers across her face. A memory of who she once was. A recognition that this path is darker than she intended. But the fear of standing alone in the coming storm overrides hesitation. If the investigation tightens, if Michael retaliates, if secrets begin unraveling, she will need someone strong enough to stand between her and collapse. In her mind, she is not destroying Chase. She is reshaping him. The tragedy is that Chase may not realize what is happening until too much has already been lost. When he looks back, he may see the pattern, the silence, the proximity, the way Willow appeared exactly when he needed comfort most. By then, the explosion will already be underway. Because Willow's transformation does not happen quietly. It radiates tension. It alters dynamics across Port Charles. Brooklyn senses something shifting. Dante notices the strange alignment of timing. Even Michael begins to suspect that Willow's calm is too calculated. And once suspicion ignites, it spreads. Willow's descent into calculated manipulation is not explosive yet, but it is building towards something inevitable. A confrontation. A revelation. A moment when the truth surfaces and the illusion of innocence shatters completely. She believes she is securing her future. In reality, she may be lighting the fuse that will destroy everything she is trying so desperately to control. Willow no longer sees Chase as simply a former husband or a man drifting through the wreckage of his own mistakes. She sees him as an asset, a wounded, angry, newly untethered asset. And that realization changes everything. Chase's suspension from the force, the strain in his marriage, the humiliation of being questioned by his own department, all of it has left him raw. But what fuels him most now is something darker, resentment toward Michael. Chase believed he was pursuing justice when he pushed the investigation forward. He believed Michael was hiding something about the shooting, something that tied back to Willow's suffering. Now, whether or not that belief is accurate, it has evolved into personal anger. In his mind, Michael's influence, Michael's money, Michael's protection have always insulated him from consequences. And Chase is tired of it. Willow recognizes that shift instantly. She does not approach him with a master plan laid out. She begins subtly, planting questions rather than directives. What if Michael isn't as clean as everyone thinks? What if the custody battle over Wiley and Amelia has never truly been about the children, but about control? What if certain financial records or strategic moves could expose inconsistencies in Michael's character? She frames it not as revenge, but as protection, as safeguarding the children from instability. Chase listens. At first, he resists. He tells himself he cannot cross certain lines again, but the bitterness he feels toward Michael weakens that resolve. He remembers how powerless he felt when his investigation was dismissed, when his badge was threatened, when Michael walked away untouched. Willow does not need to convince him fully. She only needs to align her goal with his frustration. That is when the recruitment truly happens. Willow invites him into private strategy discussions. She tells him she needs someone she can trust, someone who understands the legal system, someone who knows how investigations work. She presents it as mutual survival. If Michael moves against her in the custody battle, she needs evidence, leverage, timing. Chase, still trained in procedure and policy, becomes invaluable. He begins quietly digging, not officially, not as a detective, but as a man with unfinished business. He reviews public records, cross-references, financial filings, monitors subtle inconsistencies. What begins as curiosity transforms into mission. And Willow watches the transformation with careful satisfaction. This is where the real shock forms. Willow is no longer reacting to threats. She is engineering them. She is guiding Chase's anger toward a specific target and refining it into something strategic. Michael becomes not just an obstacle, but a mark. The custody of Wiley and Amelia is framed as a moral crusade. Willow convinces herself that Michael's instability, his secrets, his past mistakes make him unfit. The narrative she builds is persuasive even to herself. But beneath that moral framing lies something colder: conquest. If she wins custody, she does not simply regain her children. She defeats Michael publicly. She reshapes perception. She proves she is not the vulnerable woman people assume her to be. And Chase becomes her instrument. The haunting element of this storyline is not the legal maneuvering. It is the psychological shift. Chase believes he is acting independently, fueled by his own resentment. He does not fully see how Willow is channeling that resentment, how she is sharpening it into a weapon. Each piece of information he uncovers becomes ammunition. Each doubt he voices about Michael is reinforced by Willow's carefully timed validation. As the custody battle intensifies, the shockwaves ripple outward. Michael senses something calculated behind the scenes. Dante notices Chase's renewed focus on Michael's affairs. Brooke Lynn begins to suspect that Willow's involvement is deeper than it appears. The air in Port Charles grows tense. When the first major legal strike lands, a motion filed citing new evidence that questions Michael's judgment and stability, it hits like a bomb. The courtroom becomes a battleground, and standing just behind Willow is Chase, silent but unmistakably aligned. This is the haunting new event. Willow, once perceived as compassionate and fragile, now orchestrating a strategic assault using the very man who once swore to protect her. The transformation is undeniable. She is no longer pleading for fairness. She is taking it, calculating it, weaponizing loyalty and resentment alike. And the most dangerous part? Chase may not realize until too late that he is not simply helping Willow, he is becoming entangled in something far darker. If the truth about her manipulations surfaces, he could lose what little remains of his career prospects. He could lose credibility permanently. He could lose himself. But for now, he believes in her. And Willow believes she is finally regaining control. In Port Charles, that combination rarely ends quietly. The newest shift in this unfolding storm centers on Chase, and the adjustment is far more devastating than anyone anticipated. What began as loyalty has turned into disillusionment. What began as belief has become the source of his undoing. Chase built his identity on integrity, on the idea that truth would ultimately prevail, and on the conviction that Willow was someone worth defending at any cost. Now that very faith is cracking beneath him. At first, he does not see it. He believes he is fighting for justice, protecting Willow from Michael's influence, correcting wrongs that the system failed to address. But slowly, inconsistencies surface. Small details in Willow's narrative don't align. The timing of legal filings feels orchestrated. Her calm during moments of crisis feels less like resilience and more like preparation. The realization does not hit him all at once. It seeps in, and when it finally crystallizes, it devastates him. Chase understands he has been used. Not manipulated in an obvious, theatrical way, but guided, redirected. His anger toward Michael was encouraged. His suspicions were validated. His wounded pride was soothed just enough to keep him moving in the direction Willow needed. He was never her partner in strategy. He was her shield and her weapon. That truth shatters him. The painful ending forming around Chase is not explosive. It is internal. He confronts Willow not in rage, but in disbelief. He asks the question that matters most. Did she ever truly trust him, or was he simply convenient? Willow does not fully deny it. She reframes it. She speaks of survival, of protecting Wiley and Amelia, of doing what was necessary. And in that reframing, Chase sees the final confirmation that the woman he loved has changed into someone he barely recognizes. The decision to leave does not come from defeat. It comes from self-preservation. Chase understands that if he stays emotionally, strategically, physically, he will continue losing pieces of himself. His badge is already compromised. His marriage with Brooklyn is fractured beyond repair. His reputation within the PCPD is damaged. And now, his belief in Willow, the last pillar he stood on, has collapsed. So he walks away. His departure is quiet but heavy. No dramatic speech, no public breakdown, just a man packing what remains of his life, stepping out of a city that once defined him. The pain of it lingers in every movement. He is not leaving because he hates Willow. He is leaving because he can no longer survive loving her. And that exit sends shockwaves. Michael receives the final surprise when he uncovers evidence of the coordinated efforts between Willow and Chase. Instead of triumph, he feels a complicated mixture of anger and grim vindication. He realizes how close he came to losing custody through calculated strategy rather than truth. But Chase's departure robs him of the clean victory he expected. There is no courtroom collapse, no public confession, just absence. Jason, ever observant, sees the deeper consequence. He recognizes that Willow's transformation is not temporary. She has crossed a line strategically and emotionally. He understands what it means when someone begins to justify manipulation as protection. Jason becomes more cautious, more distant. The adjustment for him is subtle but significant. Willow is no longer someone to underestimate. Brooklyn receives perhaps the most personal shock. She watches Chase leave not just their home but their future. She knows he made mistakes, but she also knows he loved deeply and honestly. The realization that Willow played a part in unraveling him fuels quiet fury. Brooklyn's grief does not manifest loudly, it settles into resolve. She will not forget. And that is where the new trouble truly begins. Chase's departure does not end the conflict. It exposes it. It forces everyone to reassess Willow. The narrative she carefully constructed begins to fray at the edges. Allies become wary. Enemies become alert. The city shifts. Willow stands in the aftermath, technically victorious. The custody battle is stabilizing. Michael has been shaken. Chase is gone. But the silence left behind feels heavier than triumph. For the first time, she senses that control may have cost her more than she anticipated. The adjustment is irreversible now. Chase's painful ending becomes a turning point not only for him, but for everyone around him. His exit leaves emotional wreckage in its wake. And in Port Charles, departures rarely close chapters quietly. They open new ones often darker, often more dangerous. The final surprise is not that Chase leaves. It is that his departure marks the moment the balance shifts permanently. And from here, nothing will return to what it once was.